to the Here You Are podcast. This podcast is about life's journeys, big and small. I'm your host, Alex Wiseman, and together we are going to explore stories of resiliency, growth, self-discovery, hope, and everything in between. This passion project comes from a deep belief that storytelling works. And sometimes we need to hear from someone who has a story even somewhat similar to ours that we're going to be all right. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's dive in together.
Okay.
I feel like that could be a podcast.
Okay.
Hold on, wait. We're here today to speak to you about Zeus. Hi, Zeus. We're here to talk. Zeus is not aware of boundaries, consent, personal space. But he's a lover. You know what? He's authentic. That's right. I appreciate that. I love that Zeus lives this authentic life. So today I have my really good friend, my soul sister, Tiff Martindale, and my son, Zeus, who is everywhere that I am all the time, because he's a Velcro dog, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Doing a podcast together is something that we've been talking about for a really long time. Tiff and I, not Zeus and I. Also Zeus.
But also Zeus. And it's something that I don't know if we ever knew it would happen or what it was going to look like. And to be honest, we still don't know what it's going to look like.
Actually, that's a true statement. Here we are, not knowing what it's going to look like.
And here you are.
And here you are.
And there's the plus.
Having faith that we know what we're talking about.
That's right. Or, by now, you've swiped away and this is done. And that's fine, because
Enjoy your day.
you have agency of your own life. And that's what we're going to talk about, being your authentic self today. So this is actually so perfect.
It's a good segue.
It is a good segue. So I want to start by sharing a little story of years ago, probably 12 or so years ago.
I'm nervous.
Tiff was teaching a class in human kinetics at the University of Windsor, human performance, which was previously taught by both of our master's supervisors. Shout out Patty Weir.
Yes, P-dubs.
P-dubs. And so she was teaching human performance. I was in my master's with Patty, Dr. Weir, which she will roll her eyes at that, I think. And Tiff had all the GAs, or the grad assistants, stand up and share their favorite smell.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. And you were so keen.
Why? What was I doing?
You were like, all right, I'm going to start us off. My favorite smell is popcorn. And I was like,
That's popcorn?
yeah.
I hate the smell of popcorn.
Maybe I said that.
I've evolved so much
Maybe I
over
said
these
that.
years. That was my former self.
Maybe you said fresh cut grass. Would that be?
I like that.
Okay.
Also weird, like Play-Doh. I like the smell of Play-Doh.
Solid Play-Doh.
Gasoline.
Okay.
I don't recommend that for a long time.
Getting dark.
Yeah.
It's getting dark in here. Play-Doh, I do love the smell of. Maybe popcorn was my answer, but I recall you having us do that, and I thought it was fun.
You know what I used to do?
Okay.
I don't have a lot of fun facts about myself. But I had like my canned answers, which everyone used to, and they were really weird.
Yeah.
I met Jerry Springer swimming in a pool in Cancun, and P.S. we have a picture together. So
Okay, evidence required. So you need the receipt.
I'll send that. In. Second, I once was in a magazine modeling rubber boots.
I don't know what's better.
How about that? Who's fun now?
Check me out in my rubber boots. Okay, we also need a photo of that. Do you have that?
Oh yeah, I do. I'll send evidence about that.
I don't have a canned answer, like something cool like Jerry Springer or rubber boots. Like, what am I about to say?
That sets the bar pretty high, I bet.
It does. I like to eat kiwi skin. Yeah, that's fun. Who's having fun now?
How do you smell it?
You just chew it and then you swallow it.
My throat is scratchy.
Okay.
Listening.
It's dramatic.
That's gross. Not everyone can swim with Jerry Springer.
Not everyone can. Rest in peace.
Also
Rest in peace, Jerry.
Rest in peace, Jerry. Yeah.
That was like a childhood. I'm not going to use a idol because that's certainly not what I mean.
Oh no, but that
Like
was
an
that was
icon.
a sick day idol. I'll tell you that.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Yeah, some ginger ale, some chicken noodle soup, Jerry Springer, Princess
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
the whole line at Morty.
I love those things that are coming up on Instagram. It's like the classic sick day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you are not the father. You're like 10 years old, just
understanding of paternity tests.
Paternity tests.
But so we want to talk a little bit about when we were rapping back and forth about what we wanted to chat about. Being authentic came up, and being really intentional with decision making and living a life that is true to us, and how that's not necessarily, it's not simple and straightforward. I'll never forget, you gave me some years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, the book Untamed by Glennon Doyle. You wrote a little note in there. But at that time, we were having a conversation about bravery or courage. And you had shared with me the definition that you and your daughters talk about.
I know that definition.
Let's hear it.
Bravery is knowing that you're afraid of something, but having the courage to do it anyways.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I think bravery is also knowing when you don't have to do it.
Which is also a choice.
For sure. Of being like, I don't want to do that anymore, right? Or being able to walk away from something or something not aligning with your values anymore. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think bravery always has to be do it, right? Sometimes it's like, don't do it. Sometimes don't do it anymore, right?
Know when to leave the party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's not an easy decision. Because sometimes the party's fine, or it was really fun, and it was serving, and it was great. Evolution happened, and it's time to leave. It's time to reroute. Yeah. It doesn't mean, but I think it's necessary to acknowledge that even when you make a decision that's good for you, your heart can hurt, and grief can follow.
Yeah. Probably the biggest sort of life move that I guess I made was leaving my career at the University of Windsor and going back to school and starting a new career and that was one of those things that I struggled with for a long time because my journey at the U was good.
Yeah.
Right? It was good. I loved my job. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the students. There were so many things that I loved. I also, because I was a student there for so long, it was home for me, right? Like it was very comfortable from the time I was like 18 years old. I was there and made good friends and I don't know, it felt comforting. So the idea of leaving that was a big leap, right? Because it wasn't, sometimes change comes with extreme discomfort, right? Something is intolerable, so I need to make a change. But it wasn't intolerable. It was just, I needed to make a change, right?
Something, and you knew that this had run its course.
Yeah. I had been an academic advisor there for an undergrad coordinator for 12 years and got to teach courses. And there was a lot of really wonderful things that I got to do there. COVID was obviously a big turning point, as it was for a lot of people. I feel like COVID really shook things up for people, right? We had a lot of time to sit and think with ourselves and re-examine what we want, re-examine relationships, re-examine career moves, to kind of like sit and think with your values. I think that was kind of a turning point for me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, how often are you offered the chance to sit and pause?
Oh, yeah.
Especially as like a mom, wife. I've got two littles that are, need a lot more of your attention than say, older kiddos. So you don't have a ton of time to sit and pause and reflect and take stock and take inventory of what you want, what you need.
And to be scared.
And I know you and I have talked a little bit about your work with end-of-life clients and the messages that they've shared with you in terms of like living a life that is big and authentic or not big, just authentic and for you. And that's something that I think motivates a lot of people is that fear of death.
I think it's a huge motivator of death. Since as long as I can remember.
Me too.
Right?
Yeah.
If I had to kind of say where my journey or my perception of death changed a little bit, was my first real experience with death that like hit hard. I was in grade 9, and a friend of mine was killed in a car accident by a car. So it impacted me, of course, because I was like 14, 15 years old when that happened. And we were really young to have experienced that, right? Because you're in that phase, 14 and 15, where everything is about you. You're kind of like, this could have happened to any of us, right? So there's that part. But then there's also a part of like, he was here and now he's not. And how hard that is to wrap your mind. I had actually seen him earlier that night. I couldn't make sense of it, like how that could possibly happen. How could his life be over so young? My friend's name was Brian. And, but I remember, now I can think back of how sort of the thread of his life kept going, despite him not being alive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't really think about that then, but I think about that now because I think of, if I kind of tie it into my fear, I guess it's like us not knowing what happens when we're not alive.
That's the
physically
fear.
anymore,
That's
right?
the fear, I believe. Like, what next? That's the anticipation.
Right? Like
What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I think about how he is still very present in the lives of his family, the lives of his friends, there were things that his unfortunate death sparked, like, there were no sidewalks. And I remember his mom, along with a group of other people, even friends, put together this huge initiative for the town of LaSalle to put in more sidewalks. And they did, right?
Wow.
Because of that.
Mm-hmm.
There were people who, he was a incredible baseball player. I know the lives of his baseball team was forever changed. And I guess just how everyone kind of carried on his legacy, right? At such a young age, right? 14, 15 years old.
There's huge comfort in that because I remember it being explained to me when I was in my early 20s by a counselor or a therapist who said, we can't just, like, energy can't be destroyed. Let's talk about this scientifically, kind of. Let's remove any spiritual, religious kind of support from this conversation. Let's talk about the evidence of science. And so I was curious. This is like my first time even going to a therapist. I was very not sure of what I was getting into, but I remember disclosing, like, I'm super scared of dying. And he said, yeah, energy can't be destroyed, but it can take new shape. And there was comfort in that.
Yeah, there is. There's a lot of comfort in that. And I think, fear is not knowing what's going to happen next, right?
Mm-hmm. And not knowing if I can handle it.
Yeah, not knowing if you can handle it. Or not knowing if anyone else can handle it, right? Like, now I see how that fear shifted a little bit for me being a parent, where it's like, not only am I worried about what happens to me, I'm worried about what happens to them, but I'm also worried about how they would handle it, right? And I remember I wrote a poem called Go Deep. And that was something he always used to say. When you're feeling exhausted and, you feel like you can't go anymore, like, go deep. There's more in there. Like, you gotta go deep to get it, right? Mm-hmm. And I wrote a poem, Go Deep. And that was, like, a really natural way for me to express myself. So anyway, fast forward a little while, I kind of, like, fell into this groove of, later on, like in my 20s, of writing for people who have passed away. So, like, writing obituaries, writing eulogies. Now, this started out, of course, like, grandparents or family members who have passed away. And, like, I delivered eulogies for grandparents or wrote eulogies and everything like that. And it was sort of this, like, weird little, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it.
I mean, it's a niche skill for sure. We can start by calling it that.
It can also be a real conversation stopper.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, well, what do you do in your spare time?
Not easy to do. Like, to be offered like a loving hand in writing that.
Yeah.
People, I'm sure, open arms.
Well, yeah. And I mean, I think I was pretty young when I used to, like, actually read obituaries.
Yeah.
And I remember loving reading some of the ones where I felt like I knew the person.
Yeah.
Right? Where I was like, that was really well done. Because I think it's really hard. You've got a few paragraphs, right? Mm-hmm. This is you're encapsulating someone's legacy.
Yeah.
Someone's thread. What do people remember about them? What are those little things that are going to continue, right? Mm-hmm. Where's that energy?
The essence.
Where is that energy going to continue? And that was a way for me to deal with grief of losing loved ones and whatnot. I don't know. It was a way for me to reflect on their life, right? It was like really little things, because I found it really interesting when I would meet with family afterwards. This is when I would write eulogies or obituaries for people that were not my grandparents. So when I would meet family members after to kind of collect, in a very, like, therapeutic space. This was before I was a therapist. This was just like This was a side hustle that I didn't get paid for, but I enjoyed doing.
Passion project.
It was a passion project. I loved it. It made me feel good. It was good. It was good. But I would hear about from all of these family members, all these like cool little nuances and things that they found were important parts of this person's life that I'm like, I wonder if they ever knew that. An example, I remember my uncle after my grandmother passed away. My uncle we were talking about how my grandmother was like she was a neat freak. She was like the utmost 1950s, like homemaker, like seamstress, crafty, had 7 kids, like just the classic.
Textbook.
Yeah. And just how meticulous she liked everything. And my uncle said, I always remember she would sweep the floor and she would sweep and and then you've got that little line and then she would like sweep it the other way and then she would sweep it the other way. And then there's always that little bit left, like you couldn't get. And she would lick her thumb and like press it to the floor to pick up the rest.
Wow.
The rest of it there, and then like go and like wash her hands with the water. And it was like, that's the craziest thing. You remember that, right? Maybe that's what he does now, right? The smallest little. That's her. That's her essence. That's her energy. That's her energy going into the littlest thing, right?
At the end of the day, it's not the big things that define us. We know that. And I mean, this circles back entirely to the conversation about living authentically.
Yeah.
These big events, the ones that are romanticized and glorified, and those are parts of our story, but our lives are lived in the moments in between those big parts.
That's exactly it.
And where's the authenticity in that? Like, can we show up authentically? And I'm not saying that there aren't times we gotta put on like a happy face and just kind of get through a moment, because there's authenticity in that too, and sometimes that's necessary. But I remember you shared a story with me about a woman in hospice who was your age and the message that she left you with, and that really sparked, I think, our motivation for the conversation around living authentically.
Yes. So I ended up, again, I guess this kind of goes into my writing and how I was having lunch with a friend one day, and she worked for hospice at the time. And we were just kind of chit-chatting, whatever. I don't know how it came up that I had written eulogies, obituaries. I like writing, and this is kind of like a weird thing. And anyway, she was like, have you ever thought about writing? Oh, anyway, I remember. I said, I always feel like it's really sad. These beautiful things are said about these people, and they will never know them. They will never hear it, right, of how sad that is. The family and loved ones are kind of collecting all these stories of little, weird little small things about them, and that these people have passed away not knowing that. And I always
want that notion of like, bring people their flowers while they're still here.
Yes, that's what it is, for sure. She said, have you ever thought about interviewing or like kind of writing for someone at the end of their life? Like, what's their story look like? And I was like, my first sort of reaction was like, right?
Wind out of your sails.
Yeah.
That's big. That's a big ask.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
What like dropped into your mind in that moment?
I mean, a lot of feelings. I think gratitude for her even thinking that I could be capable of collecting and relaying that message, I guess. Fear, right? Like these people are experiencing what I fear most.
Yeah. To be so close to what you fear most that's no joke.
Yeah. Fear, right? And then fear of handling their emotions. I can't imagine they're at the end of their life. It's the phase that all of us fear. What emotions are going to come out there, and am I going to be able to handle it? Like, keep in mind, this was before I even had the skills of being a psychotherapist. So anyway, I said I would think about it, and then she called me and said, I have someone in hospice who would like to meet with you. No pressure, right? No pressure. And I was like, I don't even know what this is going to look like. What am I going to ask them? So I showed up. The funniest thing was I showed up, and I knew his name, and I knew his age. Okay, he was a 70-year-old man. That was all I knew about him. So I showed up, and I was like, I had like my brief, I don't want to call it a briefcase because it makes me sound like a 1983 businessman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. Yeah, I was carrying a briefcase. I don't know. My bag, I don't know, my bag, a notebook, whatever it was.
So you're walking in, sweating bullets.
I'm walking in, I was really nervous. I'd never even been in hospice before. Like, I'd never stepped foot in there.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, yeah, very peaceful. Like, the people who work for hospice are angels on earth.
That's
like,
right.
it's next level.
My Nona was in hospice before she passed over 10 years ago. Like, it very much felt like, for those who believe in heaven, and she was a devout Catholic, like, this is heaven's waiting room for her.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
so
a good way to put it.
if anyone, like, has ever been to hospice, you know that feeling. If you don't, it really is that.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, really special people that work there. So
Yeah.
like I said, I felt a lot of. So I approach this room of this man, and he's in a hospital bed, and I introduce myself, and he introduces himself, and he was actually like so wonderful in using my, like, how hilarious is that? I was like, I'm really anxious right now. Like, please help me. But he was like, okay, so, how does this normally go? And I'm like, in that moment, I had to make a decision, like, do I play this off to this man that, like, this is what I do?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I be my authentic self and say, like, first time for this guy who's got two thumbs and it's their first time, this guy right here. So it was like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. This is my first time doing this. I have written about lives and before, and it's something I really love. But, this is kind of new territory for me. So this can look like whatever you need it to look like. And he was like, okay, like, let's go from there. So I had some sort of questions, right, of the interesting thing that I discovered about writing for people at end of life is that there are so many things that they want to say, but saying them is very obviously very painful.
Yeah.
And that's why, sometimes there's these conversations at end of life, these conversations that don't happen with loved ones that would provide such comfort and closure, but they don't happen because when you say those words into space, it becomes real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like tell me about your son. Gordon had children. Tell me about your son. And what would you say makes you most proud about him? Or proud of him? What is something that you hope people remember you more, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's something you hope you instilled, right? What's something you're most proud of in your relationship? Like, all of these questions that there was this kind of like energy block in the way. If I didn't say it, right? I'm just a person, right? He doesn't know me. And I think it's important that I was just a person, because if it had been his family member asking him this, how painful.
So painful. You gave him an invitation.
Yeah.
Like I said, no pressure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
permission.
Right. Where it was only him and I in the room. We chatted for probably close to like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I recorded it, and then I said, I'm going to go away, and I'm going to write up something, and I'll send it through an email, and any edits or whatever else. So it was kind of like his story, but from my perspective, I guess. His story, but like me interviewing. So I was writing very much in first person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I emailed him, and then I said, I'll deliver you a hard copy as well. And he said, oh yeah, sure, that works. So I delivered him a hard copy. And when I delivered it to him, he said, do you mind reading it to me? I was, oof.
Not saying no to that.
Do you mind reading it?
Yes, I mind.
Right?
No way.
Yeah.
Anything, Lord.
Yeah. Read it. Do you mind reading it to me? So I was like, oh, sure. So I sat down, and I watched him, and I'm telling you this because this was a moment when I realized how important this type of therapy and experience is, and how I discovered that it actually is a type of therapy, which I learned later on. So there I am, reading him back his life, And I'm watching him. He's laying in his bed. He's got kind of his arms sort of just resting on him. And his eyes are closed. And he's listening to all the things that he thought was important in his life, right? His legacy, his thread. All the things that he wanted to, right? To make sure his message got out, right? And it was that point that I knew that I was like, I need to do this. This is important, right? So when you talk about kind of authenticity, I was like sort of just this weird person who got asked to write eulogies and obituaries, right? Like, and it was like kind of an ongoing joke with my friends. It was like, you know, when I die, you're on. You know, it was like,
but there's comfort in that too for them. To be like, well, Tiff got me.
Yeah.
And such sacred work.
Yeah. I guess it, so it kind of like, for a long time, you know, you kind of think about how you take your own skills and make meaning out of it. And that was important. That was an important experience for me. It was important. I realized, I think that it was more than just like a weird thing that I was good at, right?
It was a necessary gift.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So how did that lead to me being more authentic?
I think the woman who had two daughters, two kiddos.
Yeah.
And she was your age. And there's nothing like hearing and seeing ourselves in someone else so close to what we fear most.
Yeah. That was a difficult one. So this person that I interviewed in hospice, I actually knew as a friend in high school. We hadn't seen each other in a number of years. Kind of like, you know, kept in touch through social media and whatnot, like a lot of people do, run into each other from time to time. And I found out that she was in hospice. And 2 daughters that she was leaving behind. The interview with her was obviously really tough and hit close to home. Of course, anytime you're meeting with anyone our age, it really puts things into reality for you. So the interview, I hate to call it an interview, but I guess that's kind of what it was. But, you know, we just kind of explored, you know, what are some things that were important in your life, right? What are some things you're happy that happened? What were some of the best moments? What message, you know, do you leave for your daughters, for your husband? These things, right? Like just, it was like really, it was heavy.
And she left you, she gave you a message about happiness, right?
Yeah. So she, and it's something I think about all the time. And it's something that I actually have even put into, I've used this phrase with my own clients as well. But I remember her saying, if you can make yourself happier, do it.
Yeah.
And it was like, ugh, I had like chills even, like saying it now, because it was like, if you can make yourself happier, do it. And not everyone can, right? Not everyone can make every decision, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that everyone can do to make themselves happier, right? Sure. I wish I could do whatever and make myself happier. But that wasn't what the message really was. It was just, it was almost like, for me, it was almost like, take the risk to be happier, right? Take the risk. And so I met with her, it may have been about a week and a half before she had passed away. At that time, I was really all over the place with my own job. Again, you talked about this, I loved my time in HK, but I really felt for a while that the passion was just like not there for me anymore and that I needed something else. I was helping students with a lot of mental health issues and I didn't have the skills to be doing that, right? They were coming to me for academic issues, and what I soon realized was that was just a symptom of something going on much deeper than that. I knew I wanted to dive a little deeper into that, and I was contemplating leaving my job and going for psychotherapy full. But I was afraid, right? It's the University of Windsor. Nobody quits a job at the University of Windsor.
Yeah, benefits, pension, vacation time.
All the things.
All the stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons to stay.
All the reasons to stay, right? And I didn't hate my job.
Yeah. You had great coworkers.
Right.
You loved working with students.
Right. But I knew that I could be happier.
Yeah.
Right. So I had found out, I was kind of like back and forth with when do I leave, or do I not leave? I'm grateful that I had a very supportive husband who was like, you need to just do what you need to do. I remember I found out that she passed away on a Sunday. I think I'm almost positive it was a Sunday, because the very next day I resigned from the university.
She was giving you permission.
Yeah, it was like, what am I doing here? Like how, I feel like everyone's like, life is short, YOLO, whatever, all this stuff. But it's like, when you, I guess, kind of have like a front row seat to see how short life really can be, it's like, I better start doing things that I want to do them, right? What am I? What's my energy? Who am I? And what do I want to be doing? And what impact do I want to leave on this world? Right?
And what do all those little moments between the big moments really look like? Because that's where my life is, in those little moments. Not in the big stuff.
Yeah.
Not in the status.
For sure.
The job title or whatever, LinkedIn.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
It's all little, it's the day to day.
It is the day to day.
It's the day to day.
Yeah.
The little, because the little things become big things.
For sure it is, right? And when you think about those things, like, even, I know that your relationship with your grandmother passed away is really important. And if you reflect on kind of like, what are those little things that you do now to honor her life? What does that look like?
And she's here with me because of that.
Right.
Right? And so when we're talking about my grandma Pat, my dad's mom, who was a co-founder of the Windsor Athletic Association and very much pushed forward equity in youth sport. And she was very much a feminist in sport. She probably didn't call herself that, but she was doing that work. And I mean, even though she passed away when I was about 8 or 9, her legacy lives on. To know that she was like a bank manager in Detroit during the '67 riot, like, badass. Come on. I'm like, give me some of that energy and that ferocity.
You do have that energy.
And so it lives on because of her story and her legacy and her essence. So I get to show up and say, and I find this is where those who have left this world physically, where they live on, is when we say, okay, what would Grandma Pat do? What would they say? How would they react when we're feeling stuck? Because there is an answer there. And there's a knowing within, and sometimes when we're at a pinch point or a choice point where we don't know kind of what to do, we've got a big decision or a little decision or a medium decision, and we feel stuck, if we can quiet our minds to the best of our ability and just go within and check in on our inner knowing, like something will come up. And this is a huge invitation for everyone or anyone who's made it this far on the podcast to...
Yeah, no one's listening.
To follow that.
I think they're like, Sleety writes obituaries or
But like, if you have an inner voice that is just tugging and nagging and pinching and pulling and pushing, you have to feed that. You need to check in on that. What is that about? You have to spend time with it, for starters.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anyone who has made it this far in the podcast to make all the rash decisions.
Yeah, don't quit your job.
Yeah.
Don't quit your job.
Because you listen to this. Yeah. But, be intentional with your life. It's so easy to not be. It is so easy to sit in autopilot.
That's what I did, right? And I'm aware that, not everyone can just go and quit their job and start anew and go back to school and whatever else. But I guess it kind of comes as an invitation of like, you can't change everything, but you can change something, right? And that something, I talk to a lot of my clients about this. Like, what's your something? What's your little thing that when you do it, you think, I need to do more of this, right? Maybe it's like you carved out 5 minutes that day and you poured yourself a cup of your favorite tea, right? That made you a little happier that day, right? Maybe he's not interested in this anymore, but
he's fully snoring.
Petting your animal. Yeah. Maybe you take your dog for a walk. Yeah. Maybe you call a friend. I think it comes down to, I actually don't even know if I knew what values were for a really long time. I think we always say like, the person's got really good values. But I don't think I ever really knew what that meant. But now I feel like I try to think about who I want to be, what I value, and how every day I can try and make decisions towards that value, right? It's interesting, like interviewing people and being with people. I'm now with clients. I do have clients that are at end of life, and therapy is quite different. There's actually a type of therapy called dignity therapy, which I didn't know that I was already doing, but it's basically like reflecting on your life. Reflect on your life. What are some regrets? What are some things that you're proud of? What are some hardships that you are glad happened? What are some relationships that you feel are important? You know, who are you? Like, what's your legacy? And I think when people think about legacy, we always think like monetary, right? Like there's legacy planning and all this kind of stuff where it's like plan, you know, whatever people behind monetarily, right? Or heirlooms or whatever else. But I think there's a lot of healing that can happen on both grieving, the people who are left grieving, and the people who are at end of life. But it all comes down to like being authentic. Focusing on those little moments, right? That's the stuff, right?
That's the stuff. I believe, and I say this to my clients often, that there are no mistakes. There are lessons, there are decisions. Every choice has an outcome, a reaction, a consequence.
Yeah.
No matter what the choice is, that could be to wear a spring jacket and it's too cold out. Like, it can be such a minor choice. That's my week. But every choice has a consequence. And so if you are making decisions that align with your values or your authentic self or your true self or whatever language encompasses that, I believe that you will live the life that's meant for you.
Yeah.
Curveballs will come and life will throw you some shit for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that when it comes down to putting our energy out into the world, if it's as authentic as can be, then we can have less regrets.
I think so too.
When our days that are done.
I think so too. You know, when you sit and think about the people that you admire, we all have those people that we kind of like admire their strength, you know, admire their journey. They're people who have been through it, right? Who have been through something really hard, really traumatic. And we think, wow, that's so beautiful, right? Beautiful that they've come out the other end.
And I always go back to the lotus flower analogy of, you know, that its root is deep in the depths of a swamp, a muddy, murky, dark swamp. And, you know, its stem is floating and flowing and growing, and it's reaching towards that light, even though that light can feel so dim and dark, and how far is it? Like, the depth is unknown, but it still grows, like, moment by moment. And it gets to the surface, and it's had a journey, and it's been dark and scary and confusing. But at the top, I mean, it's this beautiful, one of the most photographed flowers, for one. Beautiful flower amongst the mud and the dark and the scary and all of that. So I really like that analogy. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And some people who have been through the toughest times show up as those lotus flowers.
I think so too.
And I think that that's a really beautiful example of, like, just keep going.
Yeah.
If it's hard, just keep going.
Yeah. And being yourself and find out it's also okay to discover new things about yourself that don't serve you anymore. You know.
Yeah, you can, I mean, like, shed the skin, whatever it is. If you once upon a time, you know, identified as really liking this thing or always doing this thing, you're allowed to evolve, right? And so do that. Evolve, try new things. I think that especially for adults, I would say this is true for late 20s and up. Don't stop playing.
Yeah.
Like, keep exploring, keep playing. Find time to be like a giddy kid, because that kid's here with you, and they're not done playing. We need to incorporate that as much as we can. And I actually think that our authentic self shows up in that kid energy, because there was a time when we cared a lot less about how we showed up in this world. We were just a little bit more carefree, a little bit more playful. And if we can channel that energy and find ways to show up like that, I think we're doing some real soul work there.
Yeah, and I think what kind of dampens that, what changes is fear.
100%.
Comes back to fear, my friends.
Sure does. And that stuff is deeply rooted in the little amygdala in our brain. And that is for another time. That's our conversation. So just be you. That's our message. Be you. And play with what that is. Like, figure out what that means to you. Because when you say, hey, be authentic, some people might say, I don't even know where to start.
I still don't. Do you know? Like, I think this is authenticity is a lifelong journey, right? I think, when we see the 80-year-olds, we're like, oh, they're so set in their ways, and they're doing stuff. Like, I saw my therapist, she's actually not a therapist, a life strategist. She's in her 80s.
I love that.
And she's a sage of wisdom. And she's been through it, right? So I feel like she is at the peak of living her authentic self. But I think they have it figured out, right? They have it figured out already. They don't care that much about what other people think about what they're doing.
No, they don't.
Right? They're doing what they want to do. They're watching birds, which I've adopted earlier.
I was once. we were at a training in Kingston, and
You're embarrassing.
no, can I tell this story?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like already ready to tell it.
I think they think I'm.
You also just outed yourself anyway. So
Yeah.
we were in Kingston. We were at a training, and I don't know. We were like, we're gonna go for a little nature walk before we hit the road.
Yeah, because we were in like an office all day.
Yes, and so we went for a walk, and there was this beautiful wooded area, and you were like, I have bird seed, and I was like, for what? Which obviously was for the birds, but I'm like, what do you mean you have bird seed? Snow White? And so she busted out this bird seed, and we walked around, and I just was, and the chickadees were all flocking. I'm like, please come to me. I love you, birds. And you knew all the birds. You knew all about their names. You knew that's a this is a that. I'm like, that's a yellow bird, and that one's white.
Yeah. You know what
I don't
that
know.
is? It's authenticity.
That's right.
I was like, I don't even care.
No, I wasn't judging. I was judging myself for not knowing what something with the word titmouse.
Oh, the best. That's the bird of Windsor. I can't believe you don't know that. Tufted titmouse.
The tufted titmouse
Yes.
will be the new logo of this podcast, and we will be seeking sponsorship opportunities.
It's the whole name of it.
There we go.
Yeah.
You could have your own, I don't know what, but a team of Tiff's tufted titmouse.
It's a lot.
Mouses?
It's a lot
Miestas.
to say. It's a lot to say. It's a lot. I feel like some bad things would come from that. But yeah, anyway, like what you like. Do what you do. I think the reason why like old people get into like their old habits and old hobbies and they like doing things, it's like because they don't care.
That's right.
They don't care. They're living their life and they don't care what anyone else thinks about it.
They ran out of F's to give.
They did.
Yeah.
They ran out of those and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Shout out to that. Cool. Thanks for doing this with me. This has been, we had none of this planned. And so if you made it this far,
We're sorry.
Yeah.
We're sorry.
And if you watch this out of obligation, we see you, we appreciate you. And if you watch this out of curiosity, shout out to that.
Yeah,
we love
right.
you.
And also Jerry.
Jerry.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Here You Are. If any part of this conversation resonated with you, I would love to hear from you. Subscribe, leave a review, send me a message, or share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Wherever you are on your journey, just remember that you are not alone. Keep exploring, keep showing up, and until next time,